Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Iconic Dollcast. My name is Sage, your host. Welcome back to another episode all about dolls. Hope everyone who celebrates had a happy Halloween. Also, shout out to my friend Dan. Last week we did a really fun episode with spooky stories about dolls in history, and I had an absolute blast. I know Halloween season is officially over, but please go check that out if you haven't, because it's really fun. Today I have Darren Sander back on the show, and Darren is a toy and doll package designer. He's done stuff for My Scene, Barbie, the newer Disney Illy dolls. He did packaging for a She-Ra doll. So many cool things, and that's what we're talking about today. I think in the doll community, sometimes packaging gets overlooked because, if we want the doll or the toy, we're going to get the doll or the toy, regardless of packaging. But for the general population, people who don't really collect dolls, packaging is super, super important. And we're going to talk all about that and more today. We are going to jump right into it. As always, please follow me on Instagram at iconicdollcast or Britney Spears Custom Dolls. You can follow me on TikTok at Britney Spears Dolls, and please, guys, go head over to my YouTube and subscribe at Iconic Dollcast. I've been trying to do a lot more video stuff for you guys, so definitely check that out if you haven't. And let's get into my interview with Darren Sander all about doll packaging. Okay, everyone, this week I have Darren Sander on the show, and Darren has been here before. Last time we really focused on the iconic Maxi doll, and you guys really loved that episode. But this week we are talking all about doll packaging, which Darren has a lot of experience with, and this is kind of new and different for the podcast, so I'm very excited. Darren, thanks so much for being on the show. How's it going?
Thank you for having me back again. I'm very excited to talk about packaging with you. I'm doing pretty good. Packaging is what I do, so I'm excited to talk about what I love.
Yes, it's a great topic. So before we get into that, just for anyone who has not heard maybe our episode on Maxi, tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you do and kind of how you grew up with toys and dolls and all that fun stuff.
Sure. So currently I am a packaging designer, art director at Jack's Pacific Toys, and I've been doing packaging for almost 20 years now in the toy industry. So that's been my career and love. I've been playing with toys since I was super little. I've always loved dolls. I had Madame Alexander, Barbie, Gem, Maxi, obviously from our last conversation. And I just love toys and He-Man, action figures, G.I. Joe, X-Men. I just love toys. It's a huge part of my life and they make me happy. So.
Yes, and I love toys too. I know this is the Iconic Dollcast, but I do also collect quite a bit of toys, mostly like Batman and Star Wars. I would not call myself like a Star Wars Batman, extreme collector. I just get what I like. And I want to know, how does one get into doll packaging? Because that is what we're talking about today. And I will say, I do think that doll packaging is kind of an underrated topic when it comes to doll collectors. I think it's something that is very important, but I was thinking about this conversation earlier, and I'm like, as doll collectors like you and me, or toy collectors, we're gonna buy it no matter what. It doesn't really matter. But packaging is so important to just the general population when it comes to marketing and all that stuff. So how did you get into all of that?
So initially I had gone to school for animation. I was learning how to animate. I loved to draw. I wanted to be like a Disney animator. But unfortunately, when I graduated college is when Disney laid off most of their animators because of 2D was sort of being phased out and 3D was the wave of the future. And I had one 3D class and I just did not like it. I was like, this is not for me. So I started taking night classes at Art Center, which is here in Pasadena. I sort of fell in love with graphic design. My brother had been doing graphic design. And he had a job at Mattel. And then I did a quick stint as a graphic designer on one of the product teams while someone was on maternity leave, sort of got my in that way. And then I think it was a year later, I was hired on to the same team as my twin brother, Garrett. We worked on My Scene together. And that's sort of how I got into packaging. And it was like a happy accident because I think with packaging, I get to go into a store and be like, I made that. Like you can look at the box and be like, I did that. Like it's much harder to say in an animated feature film. It's like that 10 seconds was mine.
Right.
But this I can go inside and like I have a physical thing that I can hold and be like, I did this. That's so cool. So yeah.
Tell me about your first experience, like going to the store and seeing your something that you designed.
Yeah, so the first package I designed all by myself was My Scene Totally Charmed. And so that was super cool, like getting the samples that come in that you have to approve to make sure they're doing everything. It's like seeing it for the first time. And then going into the store for the first time is pretty exciting because it's like, I did that, I did that, it's finally out. Because you've been looking at it for almost a year now, and then the public finally gets to see it. So yeah, it was really cool to see it. And like, you're just like, I did that. Like, that's pretty cool that I did that. And so, like, what's totally charming is like I did the whole thing, the structure. I had to design what the structure looked like because my scene is all about blisters. So you do a different shape every time for my scene. It was very heavily themed to whatever the doll was. So we would do the only thing we had to stick to was the location of the logo. And then I think there was an additional, like, the sort of shape of the package, but you could go beyond that because of the blister. And so that one was just designed head to toe. I did the logo, like, I drew the logo. It's a heart that looks like a jewel. The background was pulled from the doll's fashions, and then you do the photo shoot with the dolls on the back. So like that one truly was like start to finish all me.
That is incredible. What do you think makes doll packaging so important when it comes to toys and dolls?
Yeah, it's all about making sure that you do like eye-catching graphics, but you don't want it to take away from the doll. Like you have
Okay.
to make sure that the doll is the focus of what people see, and the package just adds to the experience that the person buying it is going to have and makes them love you even more. I mean, growing up, it's like I loved the pink aisle going down Barbie's aisle. It was just like nothing but pink. And so you understood what Barbie's branding was, and then the some of them had illustrations, a lot of them had photos when I was growing up. So like the worlds that they created with their photos and like the sets and stuff that they did was so cool and just creating all of that. And even with like all the X-Men toys, like you just got so much information on the back about the character and everything. Like
Right.
that was always really fun part of seeing it and like just how they fit all of that onto the back of a package.
Yeah, and obviously I'm gonna go right to the Britney Spears doll where it's like I remember getting that doll and like turning it over and just like it didn't say much. It doesn't say much, but it was enough for me to be like I felt really connected to it, right? It gave me a story. And even
Mhm.
like with Barbie, like especially growing up in the 90s, I had every gimmick Barbie there was. And it was always cool to see how they would spin and twist their verbiage and how they would, use the branding from that exact doll, but pull everything from Barbie and put it into it gave you a kind of a storyline, which I think is really important. For me as a kid, I loved getting the boxes, and I will tell you, I'm not really a super in the box collector. I just don't have the space for it, but I do keep the boxes. I do have to break
Mhm.
them down and do all that stuff, but I do have just a stacks of boxes. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with them in my garage, but I think packaging is so beautiful sometimes. And like I said, it connects you in a way that it makes the doll or toy just so much more relatable in such a weird way that I can't explain.
I respect what the play along people had to do for Britney because I'm sure there wasn't a guide. Like it really hadn't been done in years making dolls of toys, and like they weren't thinking of that as like a main focus. So having to create an entire doll brand around, I'm sure it was limited assets. And so like here's a logo because that's all we got. So like
Right. And
sometimes
and
that's a
here's some
challenge
stock
too.
photos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you don't have a lot to work with, so you have to create it from the ground up, especially when you're creating new brands. It's like it's all on you to figure out what it's going to look like, which can be fun and also a challenge because when it's a new brand, lots of people have ideas of what they want it to be too. So it's a lot of voices chiming in along the way to create the brand.
Right. It's not just a one person. Here's what we're doing. Can we, before we go any further, let's talk about, can you explain some different types of packaging? Just because I know you said like the blister box for
Oh,
my scene. Let's explain that to people who might not know.
sure.
I wouldn't be able to tell you names of anything, but let's go over some of those.
Sure. So I'll start with like Brittany, she comes up is what we call a window box. So it's a cardboard box that has a plastic window.
Right.
A blister box for my scene was typically clamshell, so it was plastic on both sides that gets heat sealed together, and you can create lots of fun shapes out of that plastic. You have blister card, which is like action figures a lot of times. So there's the backer paper card, and then it has a plastic blister on top. You have like just a closed box, which is cardboard on all sides, and then you'll have like the foil bags, which a lot of collectibles come in. It gets a little more complicated when you start doing like different papers and stuff because you can do like game board one, which is like what the game when you're playing a game, the board that's like more rigid, you can do a whole box out of that too if you want. We did that for our She-Ra doll in 2016, so it makes it like very collector quality and strong, so it stays together forever. But yeah, like there's foil papers and holofoil papers, and you
Right.
can do glitter sprays, and like there's all kinds of things that you can do on it.
Do you have a personal preference, like your favorite type of box?
You know, my scene was always so much fun because every package was different because you were always inspired by what the toy designers were doing. So we got to have a lot of free reign with that one. Like you weren't constrained to stuff, so that could be really fun. Just creating a whole different look every season. Like I think, there would be 5 or 6 themes each season, so you'd have 5 different packages on shelf, and that could be a lot of fun just coming up with what you were going to do that season. I remember like sketching all the like varieties of or options for the shapes of what it could be and like how you apply it to my scene. And then yeah, blisters were fun, but it's always just like sometimes it's the challenge of what your budget is too, like what you get to work with. Like, can we afford to do a blister on this one? Or is plastic expensive right now, so we have to use paper, or is paper expensive right now, so we have to use plastic? Like it shifts like that sometimes too, where it's not really decided. You don't get to decide, it's decided for you based on your budget.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. The plastic and versus cardboard and paper.
Yeah, it goes back and forth too. Like sometimes the cardboard box is cheaper with a window, and sometimes the blister is cheaper. So it all just depends on what's happening with those prices.
Totally. And I was kind of saying it earlier, like the importance of packaging is so, I don't even want to say it's underrated. I don't think it gets talked about enough because I mean, looking around my room, it's like, yeah, I definitely there's boxes that Barbies are in. And I'm like, this one is so much better than this one, or this one's kind of flimsy. But when it comes to marketing, like we were talking about earlier, I think it's so important, especially for the toy and doll industry to keep growing because let's say, it's some little kid's birthday. Let's go pick out a present for your birthday. Not like how we did it when we got to go to
Yeah.
places like Toys R Us, but you know, a lot of the times when it's just like a kid who's not necessarily a collector, packaging is what's going to stand out to them the most. And
Mhm.
same with it. Let's say a parent is going to get their kid or their niece or their nephew a toy for their birthday. They don't really know what to get them. They're going to look right for that packaging to see what looks cool. So it's such a big part of how they sell toys. And I don't think people
Mhm.
talk about it enough. How do you think, like, from your personal stance, how do you think packaging has changed over time?
There's a lot more rules and regulations now in terms of what warnings need to go on package when it comes to kids
Okay.
because there's a lot of new safety requirements. Like when we were kids, there wasn't a choking hazard on the front
Oh, I
box.
know.
So, and like there weren't battery warnings. So it's like we know now we have warning labels that have to go on. So you have to make sure that you're doing all that. Thankfully, we have Hong Kong counterparts who make sure that all that stuff is going on, but you have to work it into your design. It's something you have to think about. Like you have to find a space for that. And like right now, if you use button cell batteries, that's a whole new warning that's coming out. You can see it on some of the Lego stuff that has like lights in it. It's a giant warning label that we have to work into our packaging design now to find a space for, depending on if your item has button cell batteries. So it's those things that become a little bit of an extra challenge of how do you design around some of those. The
Right.
warning labels is a little bit easier because you're allowed to change the colors of those as long as there's a percentage of how much they have to stand out versus the background color that they're on. So that gets a little bit easier, but there's lots of stuff that has to go on so that the consumer knows what the age grade is. Does it have batteries? Like, is it an adult collector item? Is it a baby toy? So yeah, that can be a big challenge. And I think that's added a lot of change to it because there's like an extra step of making sure you have all that information on the package and you worked it into your design because it's very obvious if you haven't.
Right. So I mean, there's just so much that goes into this. It's great. And I don't think people would normally think about that. I think they always think
Yeah.
about the process of the doll or the toy being made, but it's like there's so much more with equal value of importance. So tell me what your process, I'm sure it changes up, but give me like a general idea of what your process is when a company says, I need to make a box design for this. Do you see the toy first? Do they send you a prototype? Do you get a PDF with a bunch of images? Like, tell me how that all starts and gets to production.
So I've only ever been an in-house designer for the toys. So I've been in Mattel, Moose, and Jax. So usually there's the idea of what the toy is. Someone has decided like these are the brand we're doing. Like for my scene, for instance, every season there would be like 4 new segments, as we call them, themes for the dolls. the design team would come up with the themes. So like they came up with Totally Charmed and what other ones did I do? Sweet Street and Juicy Bling. So like they would design those and then we would see the designs and then we would do packaging based we start sketching based off of that. Over time it sort of condensed a little bit, so you're trying to design at the same time that they're trying to come up with a toy, which can always be a difficult thing because you don't know what the toy looks like, but you make adjustments along the way. So it's really like usually the toy should have what's called an RCR, a rough concept review, and that's where it's shown to everyone. And then you sort of know what it's going to be. Maybe there's changes, but you know what the toy will look like, and then you can really start designing what it's going to be. And then you start sketching. I used to do like the hand sketching. Now it's more digital sketching and figuring everything out and trying to figure out what size we want it to be depending on the toy. But you don't have all the dims for the toy, so you're sort of designing blind sometimes how big the package has to be. But yeah, then like with my scene, it would always be, well, what's the theme of the doll, and how do we take that theme and put it on the package, but not make it distract from the doll? And then even with like Illy, that's what we do too. It's like there'll be different characters. So it's like, oh, this one's Minnie Mouse, or we're doing a new character this season that we haven't done before in the line. So what icons do we pull from Disney? So we'll go on Disney's site. There's a whole site that you can go down to download assets, look up character assets. Like we're doing a Daisy. So what assets do they have for Daisy? What icons can I pull that signify to the consumer that's Daisy? What character art of Daisy? There's lots of poses to choose for Daisy. Which one works the best for the attitude we want Daisy to have on the front of our package? What color palette are we going to put behind her? So yeah, it's a lot of steps and a lot of things going to. And then if it's a feature doll, right? Like it's something that does something. So I worked on the Barbie entertainment stuff a lot. And so those dolls all did something like I did Barbie Diamond Castle. And so like that doll had a flipping dress that we had to figure out how to communicate on package. So that goes through a lot of steps too. It's like before iPhones, we would go into a little makeshift photo studio and like photograph the prototypes to sort of figure it out. Now with our iPhones, we're constantly photographing the dolls and trying to figure out how to communicate features. But yeah, and then you also have to schedule your photo shoot. So after the product or package and product have been like approved, you usually get a packaging sample or photo sample that you'll take to the photo studio and you photograph that one because it's supposed to be accurate to what the final toy will be. It's not always the case. Sometimes you have to do some Photoshop. That's why we have the legal line. Colors and decorations may vary because between that model and then going to production, things can change in terms of what color callouts are and things on the product. But yeah, then you have to figure out how to photograph and communicate that feature. And like that Diamond Castle doll was a very intense photo shoot because her dress, because it was three panels that flipped. It was like orange and it flipped to purple. It had to be rigged so there was like fishing wire holding it so we could capture the middle because it just did it in one like turn on the back of her body, I think. It just flipped. But we had to stop it in its process. So there were all these fishing lines holding up the dress so we could photograph that moment to show the blur of her dress flipping. So like that's some of the things too. And like sometimes you don't have a working model, so you have to figure out how do I fake it out to make it work.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I have just thought of 100 extra things that I want to talk about just from that. So, I mean, how roughly, approximately, how long would you say a packaging design process takes?
I mean, from like start to finish, it's about 6 months.
Okay.
Before you send your final files to Hong Kong, and then that doesn't include getting the final samples from Hong Kong. And then it's like about a year, maybe less sometimes, depending on if the product was fast tracked or not, to get it on shelf.
Okay, and do you like when you're making these mock-ups or these design, do you usually submit like multiples and then
Yeah. So yeah, we'll do multiple options for what we can do. You present it to the marketing and the product team, and everyone takes a look at it and gives you feedback, sort of deciding what they like. Sometimes they don't like anything, so you have to start over. But yeah, and I like giving options. That's the fun part, is creating the different looks that you can go. Sometimes your favorite gets picked, and sometimes your least favorite gets picked, and that's just the way it goes. So then once it's picked, then you'll move on. Like, especially with like I work on these little characters called Totally Teenies for Illy. So there's 12 of them. Initially, I'll design like, here's what it looks like for three of them because there's 12 in the assortment. And then once you've picked that style, then you have to go and design what it looks like for all 12 and figuring out how that works across 12 dolls. Or even with my scene, like once you have one style, now I have to repeat it three more times for the three other dolls in the line. So how do I apply this? I have to make a system of my design now and get it to go across four dolls. And that can be a bit of a challenge because sometimes their color palettes don't allow for the same what you did on one to do on another. And so there's just lots of challenges that come up as you do each one. That makes it fun, but also sometimes frustrating because like, oh my God, I don't know how to get this to work. Screw it, I'm just gonna do them different.
Has there ever been one that you had just were like so in disagreement about that you were like, no, that's the wrong one?
Not that I can remember. I mean, I remember I was working on Barbie Princess at the time, and they were redoing the doll so there was a modern princess overlay. And so they wanted a whole new look for the packaging. I did 7 different line looks, like, because I had to do it for princess, fairy, and mermaid. So you had to do all 3 of those at the same time. 7 different line looks. And we kept going into testing with consumers to be like, do any of these resonate with you? And like, no one was liking anything. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I've done 7 different line looks and no one likes anything. And my coworker, Sasha, at the time, she came back from maternity leave. And it's like, I had been told to make it very graphic, very graphic, very graphic. And she did one that was like sparkly Photoshop looking, like, so a more realistic. And everyone's like, that's what we wanted. And I'm like, that's not what anyone asked for.
Oh,
And like, so I was very frustrated, not at Sasha, like just frustrated in the process, but like also thankful for her because she figured out what they wanted. But then I had 1 week to do all of the packages for all of Princess and Fairy and Mermaids to get it out in time. I was sending blank, what we call mechanicals, that's your final art file. It was just one color with all the legal on it to Hong Kong and be like, this is all we have. I'll send you the final when we get it.
oh my gosh, I can imagine there's some crazy deadlines with that.
Yeah.
Uh, You mentioned something just a minute ago about, whether a toy was fast tracked or not. And so one toy that just popped into my head, and maybe you can give us more insight on maybe what happened with that. I'm very notorious about liking the worst film in almost all film franchises, whether it's Harry Potter, I like the second one best, or Star Wars, I love Phantom Menace, or Batman, I love Batman and Robin. And I remember as a kid getting, and maybe we talked about this a little bit, maybe I've mentioned it before, but when Batman and Robin came out, it was such a big deal. And obviously I was like, I want toys. And I remember as a kid, and I know there's more to this, but I remember there as a kid when I got like the figures from the Batman and Robin movie, it was like kind of weird for me because, or weird for everyone, I think, because the toys did not really match
Match.
the
Uh-huh.
movie. And that's not very common, especially now. I mean, now you're going to get exactly what, for the most part, you see on screen when it comes to Batman and Star Wars stuff, in my experience. But it sounds like that got super. Do you have any insight on that? Because it's something that I
Yeah.
always was like, this is crazy. Batgirl doesn't look like that.
So I've read about what happened with that one too, and like in mean experience. So even with Marvel Legends nowadays, because they do Marvel Hasbro does all of the Marvel Legends for the movies, like you get concept art for their costumes, but it's not necessarily like that's what they're going to wear. They may make changes along the way, and there's nothing you can do because the toys have to be molded. Like you have to cut the steel to mold the toys at a certain point, and then that's it. Maybe you can make deco changes, but even then, if you don't get them in time, the toy looks like what it looks like. So with the Batman and Robin like Batgirl toys, initially Alicia Silverstone was supposed to have a full cowl that went over her just like Batman, but it turns out it was like ripping out her hair as she would try to move. Like it was just so uncomfortable for her that they changed her costume at the last minute, so they couldn't make it up on the toys. Like this is what the toy had to look like. I
Right.
think the same with Uma Thurman. Her costumes were just always changing, and they couldn't decide what they wanted her to look like. So her costumes changed. So they're just sort of like, well, I guess this will be her design because we don't have anything from the movie yet.
Wow. Oh yeah, because they have to do it even more probably before the movie's even, I mean,
Yeah.
finished. And that has to do with
Yes.
packaging too, because you're getting
Hmm.
people illustrating these concepts and
Hmm.
then turns out it's not what they, I mean, I think that's one of the best examples of like this didn't work out how
Yeah.
they, how it usually does. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because packaging was probably a huge part of that too, because they got to get that done as well as the toy,
Hmm.
plus the movie's got to get finished and all that stuff. That's
Yes. Yeah.
crazy.
And nowadays you're waiting a lot of times for the style guides to come from the entertainment like company. So like we'll wait for the style guides from Disney because we need those to do our packaging. And depending on how fast or slow Disney is getting them, you have either more time or less time to get your packaging done, depending on when that style guide is delivered. So, but it's all part of that design process because they want to deliver the best guide. So sometimes you have to wait a little bit longer so you get the assets that everyone is happy with. to design the packaging for.
Right. And so now I have to bring it up because we are in a world that is full of AI. And it's so, I mean, I'm not a graphic designer, so like I can't say that it's affecting me as much as I assume it would be affecting anyone in any kind of design. I mean, really anything. AI is freaking crazy. But I think like I know there's been a lot of conversation about the use of AI on packaging and what that might do to, I mean, many things. So, I mean, just what are your thoughts on AI when it comes down to? I mean, you could say about anything, but especially when it comes down to packaging, I think I would assume it's going to change the industry quite a bit.
I mean, we'll see. So I hate AI,
Okay.
straight up hate it. It's it's horrible for the environment. Like it uses a crap ton of water, and it's not like it can use old water. It uses fresh drinking water to cool all the systems. Like it's bad for us. I am thankful that I work at a company that doesn't believe in the AI. Part of it is because it's not ownable. Once you submit it into the AI machine, it's owned, I'm putting air quotes by AI, like it becomes free market. So anyone can see it. If they happen to type in something similar, they may see your design. Like you're feeding the machine. And so that's why a lot of bigger companies, I believe, like Disney, don't use AI because it will pull all of their stuff then to feed its knowledge. And so
Okay.
then you don't own it anymore, it's like public domain in a way. Um, and like the final product, whatever you created with the AI, so like I type in, I don't even know how it works because I've never done it. I think you type in something so that it feeds out, so that it knows what it wants the visual to be. So like if you were to type in like Gem meets K-pop Demon Hunters, like what does that look like? That final image isn't ownable for anything because it pulled from all these other things. So like if I use that to create a background, that background isn't ownable by Jax or Disney. And so that
Okay.
becomes a big like nightmare then because anyone could just take that background then and be like, well, you don't own it. I'm going to put it on my doll or my toy,
Okay. I
or
didn't know
I'm going to make
that.
posters of it. Yeah. So it's complicated, but in general, AI is bad.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I don't
And
know
I
it.
know, and I know that people are having fun because like, oh, it feels like I can design a doll and it's so pretty, but it's really bad, you guys. Like it's really, really bad.
Yeah, do it yourself. That's all I
Yeah.
have to say. Okay, I was just curious because I know that AI is affecting literally everything. So I was like, it's got to
Mhm.
be, but I didn't know that. So I don't know a lot about
Yeah.
AI. So thank you for clarifying that. I had no clue. I thought I was like, oh no, everything's going to be AI because even I mean, even when it comes down to, I mean, there's definitely been some images created with AI when it comes to just showing you examples of things and it's like you can just
Mhm.
tell. And so I'm like, I don't know how that's gonna move into anything, but I didn't know that it did
Yeah,
that. So
I think it will affect like not necessarily packaging design because I don't know how AI can work with like structures and all that stuff. Like it can sort of design a package, but once it starts to have language on it, it really struggles with what the language should be and getting spelling right so far. Like, I mean, as it gets trained up more, it might do better. But I don't think you could have it make your mechanical because it doesn't know how all of that works. Like to make it printable, like you would still need someone to take whatever art it spits out and make it a printable file.
right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. That makes me a little less stressed, but not much.
I mean, it's still probably being used for like movie posters and all of that stuff because it's a little bit easier to get away with and like, you know, just people having fun with it. And I say fun with air quotes because again, it's not good for the environment
Yeah.
at all.
So tell me tell me about some of your favorite doll packaging of all time. Like your when you think of like the greatest packages you've ever gotten with a toy or a doll or whatever. What is some of the greatest for you?
I mean, I remember loving like the He-Man and She-Ra packaging as a kid, like the beautiful blister card with all the characters drawn on the back, and it had a little story of who they were and all that stuff. Like that was always super fun. And like even like the He-Man ones would have like a scene on the back of like the character interacting with other characters. So it was just helping to create the world that you would get involved in. And like I said, like the Barbie aisle, it's just in the 80s, it was just solid pink. Like that's what you would walk
Yes.
down. So like you knew instantly that it was Barbie. The gem packaging was beautiful with that like yellow, orange, pink gradient. I've always thought that that gem logo was just beautiful. It's like very simple, but like it just screams at your face. And again, the artwork on that, like the illustrations that Sharon Nettle did, are just so beautiful. So that sort of inspired not my packaging, but when my brother was working on Monster High, like taking elements of that and putting it into Monster High. So like it has the character art on, I think initially it had on the front, but it might just be on the back of the first ones. But it tells you all about the character, so you get to learn all about them. And then it came with a diary. So if we never had any entertainment, you can read about the character and then have them be important to you. So it's stuff like that that has influenced us. And like Gem always pops up into my like somehow it gets worked in and sometimes I don't realize it. Like Diamond Castle, I did that gradient in the background. It came from Barbie's dress. Her dress was that color, but I just happened to make the gradient the same thing. And then I did use the Gem font, um, like the secondary font that they use, like Truly Outrageous is written in on the Rockin' Awards My Scene Dolls. So that was one of the fonts that I used. I don't think I used it for the logo, but for like the copy callouts that we have. So when there's something on there that says like try me or lights up, that's what we call copy callouts. That font was used there. So Gem sneaks her way in.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Gem does sneak her way in always. I would say for me, like, I don't think I have enough. Like, I love dolls and toys. So, like I said, it doesn't matter. I'll buy it. But like, I would agree that I think the newest Gem, and I think that artwork is the same, right? Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
I think that's one of the nicer packages that I remember buying and just being like, wow, this box is so cool. Like, I didn't even fold that one up because I was like, this one's neat. But I think for me, like, I like anything from like super chaotic to also like, I think doll packaging gets more simple as dolls increase in what their value is or
In
and
price, yes.
and I mean that by like when you buy an American Girl doll, it used to be she comes in like a solid maroon box and it just says American Girl on it. And it's so simple. And just getting that, you're like, ooh, this is an expensive gift. So anything like that. But again, going back to that marketing, I mean, American Girls are expensive. So when you get something like that, I do feel like the more simple, the more expensive things seem to get when it comes
It's true.
to
No, you're totally right.
plain wise, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's they call it it's like simplistic elegance, right? And like you're paying more for the quality of your papers and things to make sure that the box is made nicely. So that's where you're spending your money. Maybe like with Barbie, they'll do like foils and it's a thicker quality stock so that it's stands better to the test of time. And they'll do like full window boxes. So like a lot of the Playline stuff for kids is a paper box that just has a window on the front. But for collector, it's like windows on three sides and the top, so the light can come through and you can display that doll in her box and you get the full beauty of her. So yeah, it just depends on, but it really is about elevating when you're increasing the price of the doll. When the doll's expensive in a collector doll, you want the package to be elevated too. And that usually means going simpler but better quality.
Right. I would say like a lot of the Disney limited edition dolls, the bigger dolls
Correct.
have
Yeah.
very nice packaging. There's no
Mhm.
images of Ariel on there. It just says the Little Mermaid, but it's very colorful and nice. And yeah, so
Mhm.
I when it comes to my preference, I don't have one, but I'm like, I have noticed little things like that I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. What like with doll packaging, I mean, obviously we want everything to be as good for the environment. Why am I thinking economy? We want
It's
everything to be very environmentally friendly. So what are like some
mhm.
things that companies are doing now to stick with that and help our earth other, because AI is killing it.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of plastic reduction, so that's one of the things that has been happening since I've been working at Mattel is like how do we reduce the amount of plastic that we use in packaging? So we'll use recycled packaging, which is called PET, so it has a percentage of recycled plastic that it has to use. The challenge with that is it is more brittle than regular plastic, so you have to use more of it so that it doesn't crack because it becomes very sharp if it cracks, and then
Right.
kids can potentially hurt themselves. So these are the things that we have to think about as we're designing the package, and we do PET. So we do try and do a lot more window boxes because the PET is easier to make more stable. Blind boxes, I think, have become popular
Oh
because
yes.
it's just cardboard, and that is another way of saying that's easy to then make recyclable because it's just a paper board. Even the foil bags can be made from recycle. You look at even for product, they've had a lot of stuff like they can no longer use glitter. because the EU has outlawed glitter. Maybe some American products still have it, but anything going to Europe can't have glitter on it. They do make recycled glitter.
Oh,
Or I can't, is it recycled glitter? They have environmentally friendly glitter, but it's expensive because no one's using it. As more like demand for recycled glitter rises, I'm sure it will become cheaper, but right now it's just expensive to do. So you switch to using foil stamps because it doesn't have the same microplastic issue that glitter does. And yeah, so we're always looking for ways of like how do we reduce plastic and even how much packaging, like does the box need to be this big if the product isn't that big? Like making sure that the package is the correct size for the product and you're not making a bigger than necessary package and then you're just shipping air, which doesn't help anyone either.
totally. I definitely sliced my finger on a Barbie box before, not gonna lie. But good to know that companies are, sticking to that because we need to. We talked about some of your favorite package designs. Tell me about some of like and you don't have to name them if you don't want to, but tell me if you want to, tell me like some of the worst packaging you've ever,
Um,
it doesn't even have to be something you worked on, just like in
yeah.
general.
Sometimes it's just like if it's overly noisy, like I think there's like the Decora girls, I think those dolls. Like it's just loud, but that's the product. But it's very, very loud, and that's not necessarily my style either. So it's a lot to look at. I don't know what's happening, and sometimes I think it can get like that, and sometimes that's not necessarily the designer's fault because you have so many people asking for things, and
Right.
marketing wants so many things communicated, and it should be a rule of threes. It's like three things to communicate on the front. After that, it just becomes noise. You can do the rest on the back, but like sometimes there's just too much stuff happening on the front that you're just like, what's going on? And especially now, we're tasked with doing a lot more stuff as like 5L, five language packaging. So
Right.
it used to be like when we were kids, it was a 1L. So it was just English only. And a lot of the countries, they got their languages. But as time has gone, to save money and to make it easier for you to send, like, oh, this item's super popular in this country now. We can just take stock from where it's not selling as well and ship it over there because it's all the same language, has all the same languages count on it. It makes it easier to sort of be fast in where you can send all of your stuff. So, we do 2Ls, 5Ls, 10 Ls. Mattel did 15 Ls. And so that's another challenge that you have to figure out is how do you do communication without being able to say words because you can't, if you type something 15 times, now I can't see the product.
Right. I would say for me, I think like shape is really also probably critical. Sometimes you get a really odd shaped box for
Yes.
something and it can be difficult to display them. I have a poison ivy Barbie that her box is slanted. So she either has to be on top of something or just like on her own. I can't stack on top of whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
have also this like Disney Aurora doll from one of the parks, and it's in this like it's a
Oh, yeah, but
beautiful
it tapers
box.
in and
It
that's all.
takes
Yeah.
up so much space, and it's like, oh, if this was just square, like this would be so much easier, but like it's not. And then you have dead space in between the other boxes.
Mhm.
I think another interesting packaging route that Mattel specifically took was when, remember, it was really a really short time when they were packaging the fashionistas in those like zipper bags. Do you remember that?
Yes, yes, I do. Yeah, they were in the vinyl zipper bags. Yes.
I don't actually hate that. I just think it made for collectors or whoever, it makes it hard to put it somewhere when it's not just like a
Yes,
square.
those ones. See, those ones you had to like hang in a way, like they are in the store. You couldn't stand
Yes.
them. But yeah, it was one of those things where it was probably, oh, if we make a bunch of these, we can get a discount on all of the supplies. And now this zipper package, which normally is more expensive, becomes cheap because we're using it across, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that they made using that package. It brings all your costs down, which that can help um, make things more affordable too. So that's always something to think about. Like the more you can produce of this item, the less some of your materials cost because you're using so much of it. But
Right.
yeah, I did remember. I thought of a thing that I didn't like. Oh, I don't love it when there's like a series of dolls and you're collecting it, and then all of us like, and each package is different. Like sometimes I
Mm,
just don't like that because like, well, the collection stuff it's beautiful, but it doesn't sit together on shelf. Like I
right.
know that you designed it to be like it's this one-off thing, but if it's in a series and now they don't align, or like also too, it's something that. I think Mattel loves to do. They love to add freshness by redoing the branding when sometimes it isn't necessary. So now everything, all the structures all of a sudden just change as you're collecting, and now they don't feel the same, and it like doesn't match, and it's annoying.
Yes, I would say the fashionista line is very guilty of that because they've had so many of them. And it's like, let's say someone is a huge fashionista collector and they want to have them all, and it just changes like that. Yeah, that would bug me too. But again, I mean, it's the importance of all of this. And it's like, you know, at the end of the day, yes, we are marketing these toys to kids. They are meant for kids, but it's like, yeah, well, then you shouldn't even be thinking about packaging because they're just going to rip it out of the box and, throw it away. So you should be mindful of that because a lot of people are keeping them in their boxes and they want things to
Yeah.
look good. And it just is an overall better display of your product, and it's
And it's
like,
starting to shift. Like it's starting to shift. Like companies are realizing now that more adults are buying their stuff, and if you're not getting the adult collector like into it, you're losing out on all of the basic free publicity that you get because
right.
it's the adults are creating all the online content that kids are seeing. And I guess there are kid YouTubers and stuff, but it's much easier for all the adults to be making this stuff than it is for the kids. And so like if you have the adults creating the buzz about it, then you get the kids wanting to buy it.
Totally. I mean, it's all about marketing. It's all
Yeah.
about marketing. What is the most recent design you worked on?
I did. They're just hitting shelf now or in October. I saw one out when I was out. So it's the Totally Teeny Series 2. So I did that one. So they're cute little dolls with brushable hair. They're each themed to a different character. So you have like Mickey and Rapunzel, and there's a Sally one from Nightmare Before Christmas. And they come with a cute little backpack that the doll goes in, and the backpack can clip on your bag. So I did that package and the little PDQ. That's the bigger box that all the individual ones sit at on the shelf. That's like the display unit. So it's called a PDQ or a CDU. So that one was fun to do because they're super cute. And then I work on the Illy fashion dolls. I'm the art director, so like I don't work on each individually, but I oversee it. So like I oversee all of the Illy dolls. So we have 18-inch fashion doll and teenies. And then I oversee what's called multi-brand for Disney Princess. So it's usually for like Costco or JCPenney, they want a collection of dolls. So my team will do the packaging for that. And it can be the princesses, maybe it includes Frozen. Sometimes it's whatever princess has her own movie. So like we just recently did Moana 2. So it could be all those combined into it. So you're working with three different style guides to get the dolls in this assortment. So that's fun. And then I oversaw musical minis, which are super cute. There are little figures on a base that when you push the figure down, it plays like iconic songs from Disney. So Ariel sings like Part of Your World.
Mm.
So those are really, really cute. That was really fun. I started the initial design of it, but it was finished off by my coworker Kai. And that's the fun part too, is like there's lots of people like it takes a village to raise a child and it takes a village to make a toy. Like, it takes a lot of people to make it, but it's a lot of fun. It can be stressful, but it's fun. But yeah, so the Illy stuff is like the newest stuff that is coming out. So and that's really fun to work on. I like that one's a really pretty brand. I inherited what that brand looked like. I didn't create what Illy looked like, but it's fun to sort of play with and push as we continue to develop the brand.
I'm going to go off track a little bit here, but I have a question for you. And I think you might have, first of all, who is your Disney princess?
Oh, so I have two sort of. I love Aurora and I love Pocahontas.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I've been talking
Uh,
with a lot of people, and I've noticed that a lot of doll collectors' favorite princess is Ariel. She's mine. I
I
think
mean, I love Ariel. I saw her movie 4 times. I love Ariel, but
but I've just noticed that generally when I talk to people and I ask them this question, it's Ariel. And I was like, well, it's because she's a collector and she's always felt like repressed by whatever. So it makes sense. But we also talk about how Ariel has and gets continually a lot of dolls. So do you think Ariel gets the most dolls?
I think she probably gets a lot of the dolls because she's so popular. Like, we get here's the popular princesses from Disney, and Ariel's always part of the top 10. Like, she's just popular. She's a mermaid. What's not to love about a mermaid? Like, what I mean? So it has that. I think that's what attracts girls to her. She's also different looking from all the other princesses because she has her red hair. She's really the only one with red hair. I know Merida does, but it's a different color red. So, like, she's striking in that sense from everyone else. But yeah, Ariel is just popular. She also has like a fun personality. Like, I think everyone can sort of relate to Ariel wanting something that you can't have. Like, I think that's a big relatable thing. And when she came out in the 80s, I just think no one thought the movie would be as big as it was, and it was just everywhere. So I think it's sort of just in everyone's
It
mind. And
still is.
yeah, and I'm sure moms remember it. So it's like, let's watch Little Mermaid, or and dads and everyone's like, let's watch Little Mermaid. So everyone's just seeing it because it was everyone's favorite movie.
I was just curious. I mean, I do feel like every time I go to the store, there's always multiple Ariel
She sells,
dolls.
like, and that's part of it, is because she sells.
That's
Like Ariel
amazing.
is the top seller.
Back on track. Do you, if I, and I've never even thought to ask or look, do you get credit on these packages that you design?
No.
Really?
We like, we're not putting our names on it for some of the Comic Con dolls that we did when I worked at Mattel. We would put who worked on like the doll, the packaging, the marketing. We would put that stuff on there so people could get credit because it's not something you typically get because there's just not room. Now, did I stake my initials and everyone who worked on it on the Diamond Castle packaging? Sure, I did. And the filigree of the packaging, it has like my initial, my coworker Julia, and our engineer Steve. Our initials are worked into the filigree, so like because it's also fancy looking, you can't really make it out. So that was the only time I ever stuck my name into anything. I haven't done it since, but because everything has become a little bit more cleaner, it's hard to work that stuff into it.
Wow, that's well, iconic behavior right there. Do you have a favorite packaging design that you've ever done of all of them?
Yes, the collector Shira from 2016 is like, getting to work on Shira was super cool. And then that package is probably the most expensive package I've ever designed because I'm pretty sure it costs $11. Like the final costing of that package was $11 to make. It's like 20 inches by 20 inches. It has her standing in front of Castle Grayskull, like it's big enough for her to hold her sword up. And then I had the idea of putting the turrets and they open and you get her two other fashions inside. And then, but you just got to do beautiful artwork by two artists, Kelly Riley and Darko. It was just so much fun. And I think it's such a beautiful display piece. And so, like, that's just, yeah, that's my favorite.
Amazing. The She-Ra box. I love it. I love it so much. So what do you have going on? What's coming? What what are you up to? Do you have anything big coming out soon that you can talk about, of course?
Yeah, I mean the Totally Teenies, those are brand new. Series 2 is hitting. So the first ones are purses, these ones are backpacks. They're super cute, they're super detailed. For $10, they look beautiful. There's new Illy dolls coming, so that's exciting. There is like very exciting stuff in the works right now that wouldn't come out until next year. That if we get to do it, will be like blow people's minds, and I think people will freak out. But it's just we're working on it now, and hopefully we get to do it.
Mm,
So yeah, and then, but yeah, it's just like just working away, doing my
of
thing, having fun at
course.
work. Like the people I work with are really awesome. I love the design team and my coworkers and my bosses. Like I'm very fortunate to work at a company that has a lot of friendly people and with people that I worked at for years too. Because like my boss here, I worked with her at Mattel, so like it's fun seeing people. And one of the designers on the toys, she worked at Mattel, so it's just like it's funny getting to work with people that you liked and on new things. And yeah, I mean, we're always working on new toys and new packaging because they come out every season.
Of course.
Yeah. So
And there's nothing better than loving what you do. And it's very
yes,
clear that you love what you do. And that's amazing. That's
thanks.
awesome. Well, Darren, thank you so much for coming on the show again. I'd love to have you back on eventually. Please and also, I mean, thank you for this conversation. I think people are going to love this. This was awesome. But please let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's vitamin_D_81. That's where I post stuff. I try and post the stuff that I work on. I post lots of doll and toy content because I'm constantly collecting. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Amazing. Well, I'll be in touch about getting you back on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was so much fun, you guys. I didn't really know what to expect out of this this interview. Darren is great. He's been on the show before, and I was very excited to have him. But it was kind of a little bit of a different topic. You know, definitely still obviously involving dolls, but it wasn't about a specific doll brand or collecting. So this was new for me, and honestly, I loved it. I had a great time. So Darren, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I really appreciate it. I'm going to have a new episode for you guys next week. I'm not sure which one I'm going to put out yet. If all goes well, I think it'll happen. I'm doing a really cool interview, and I'm hoping to get it out as soon as possible. But if that is not ready to go, I have tons of other episodes. So definitely going to have a new episode next week, no matter what. As always, follow me on the things. Please, guys, if you haven't yet, go over to my YouTube channel, Iconic Dollcast, and subscribe. I'm trying to do a lot more video stuff for you guys, just to kind of show you inside my collection and all that fun stuff. So definitely check that out, and I will talk with you guys next time.